Hey, welcome everyone. Today we're here with my friend Ahmed Gamal. Ahmed is a visual development artist at Dreamworks TV, and he was part of the first class of visual development trainees at the studio. I hope you will be as inspired by his story today as I am. Hey, Ahmed!
Hey, Kelsey. How's it going?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Good.
Yeah, so do you want to talk about what you've been up to this past couple months and your experience with the Dreamworks Visual Development Trainee Program?
Yeah. A little bit about myself. But to tell your audience.
Yeah, of course.
So I was born and raised in Egypt, and growing up, I've always wanted to work in animation, or I had this thing in my head where it's like, oh, someday I'm gonna be working on making my drawings move. According to my parents, I think I was drawing since I was 3 or 4. And so I studied architecture design since there was no established animation education in Egypt. Also, both my parents are architects, so there was no escaping that. But yeah, later on, I realized that I learned a lot from architecture. A lot of the design principles and all the learnings that you get in your training as an architect can be used in the animation and entertainment business. You learn about perspective and color theories. So there's a lot of overlap there. In 2011, I came to the US trying to pursue my dream in animation. So I lived in New York for 6 years. And I've been coming out to CTN every year to show my portfolio and develop it and get feedback. Then I go back to New York, work on my portfolio for a year, and then I come back the next year. The first year that I came to CTN, when I flew from Egypt, I was coming to attend CTN, and then I decided to stay in the US. 2011 was the first year. Then I've been doing it since.
So was it easy to stay with the citizenship and everything?
So my fiance at the time, she was born in the US, so it made it easier for me to get my paperwork done easier. I'm pretty grateful to her for that. She's been super awesome.
Oh yeah, shout out to Rhoda, your amazing wife.
Rhoda's amazing.
Yeah, it's been really cool seeing her unconditional support of you from the moment I met you.
She's definitely been a great help. She's seen me in my lowest points, and artists' lowest points are not the most fun.
Do you want to describe some of them? Was it after you went to CTN and had a discouraging experience?
Yeah, the early years, it was definitely harder because you come out to Burbank, you meet all these people in the industry, and you meet all levels of skills, right? Because you meet students and you meet people like Glenn Key. So I was self-taught, right? I didn't go to art school or animation school. So all my animation knowledge was something that I have to acquire myself. So coming out to CTN and getting a concentrated amount of information in 3 days every year is an interesting experience because you have to make sense of all the information that you get in a very short period of time. And it was hard sometimes to just put the right pieces together. As you know, there's a lot of floating pieces to animation. And I remember in 2011, I didn't even know what a visual development artist is. I was like, oh yeah, I want to work in animation. That's the dream. But then you come to realize oh, there's an animation pipeline, and there's all these people that fit into the big machine, right? So there was this whole not knowing which part am I going to fit in, and knowing which skills that I have that are going to fit into the animation production. That was definitely a hard part.
And do you think that's something that you learned a lot through by going to CTN, or was it more
Yeah, so yeah, that was also another source of information for me. Reaching out to people and breaking out of my shell and not being shy. That's how we met, right? I was
a year ago.
Yeah. I reached out to you. I was basically messaging hundreds of people, and you're nice enough to message me back. which I'm very thankful for.
How many people out of the hundreds of people you messaged on Instagram responded?
I would say like you would probably get like 5 to 6 responses that out of like, I don't even know the total number, but I remember it was close to 100. Yeah. So it's interesting. So yeah, I've been reaching out to recruiters, artists, people who are in the industry, people who work in studios, people who work as freelancers, trying to get my hands on as much knowledge as I can. Also listening to podcasts, like all the good podcasts out there that talk about like how to get into the industry, how not to get discouraged. There's a lot of psychological self-discipline involved, as I'm sure you know.
Did you always know you wanted to do Vis Dev?
As soon as I started learning that visual development is the path I want to go through, because initially I wanted to do animation. I wanted to animate. I was so intrigued by the idea of seeing my drawings move. But then after learning about the industry and learning about like how 2D animation no longer exists within the realm of like Hollywood movies, I started to realize, okay, so I have the skills of a painter or of someone who can draw, right? I can figure out shapes and volumes and stuff like that. So it was very clear that visual development is the right path to go through. And as soon as I knew that, it was easy to just reach out to the right people, and look at the right courses online and look at the right material. If I'm gathering, I don't know, like educational material on Pinterest or whatever, it kept getting more refined as the years went by. Yeah.
So did you take online classes like at CGMA?
Yeah. So that's where I started. I started with CGMA. I took a couple of classes for color and light, and character design. So I learned a lot about painting and dealing with color and value and saturation and temperature and all that good stuff. And then I switched to schoolism and I took another class, the Robert and Dice's class.
Oh yeah, the color and light one.
Painting.
That one's really good.
Yeah. Yeah, and my plan this year was to go to another school. It's called Animation Collaborative.
Oh, the one in San Francisco.
Yeah, across the street from the Pixar studios.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was established by Pixar artists. So they basically teach there and they work at the studios across the street. Yeah, so that was my plan this year.
Oh, so if you didn't get the trainee position, you would be in San Francisco.
Actually, I was going to San Francisco until Dreamworks reached out to me for the training program. So I decided to cancel the whole Animation Collaborative thing and go to Dreamworks and get paid to learn instead of pay to learn.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so it was a great deal.
So how exactly did that process work out?
Yeah, so I guess for the past 5 to 6 years, I was literally just applying to random positions. So I basically subscribed to the LinkedIn job posts. So anything that's tagged visual development or anything that's tagged concept artist. So there's a bunch of keywords that I've just subscribed to. So whenever there's a job, it would just like ping me on my phone and I would apply to it. So when I was living in New York, I would be going to work every day. I was working for this tech company in New York for almost 3 years, which was like a great experience because regardless of how different the industry is, it it was a good financial cushion for me to support my art. Yeah, so I made the decision a couple of years back that I'm going to work for tech until I find a way into the animation industry, which I think was a good decision just because tech has good money, I guess.
So yeah, specifically, I remember it was UI/UX design.
Yeah. Yeah, so I was basically a product designer. I would solve user problems or build new features for the software that we were building. I would say there's a little bit of overlap between the two industries, or between the two realms of work that I've been doing. In UX, you care about the user, you empathize with the user. So there's a little bit of human storytelling involved. And that was the intersection that I found. Before, for me, it was like flipping the switch between tech and art. I would go home and switch my right brain on and start drawing, and then I go to work and switch my left brain on and start designing, until I realized that I can actually take all these learnings that I've gained from working in a tech company and apply it to my work.
So you're basically working on your own projects after work and on the weekend, just not during the day because you have a full-time job.
Yeah, basically, there wasn't as much time. I mean, art is pretty time consuming on its own, and I always had this feeling that, oh, there's not enough time for me to finish working on this project. So I always felt rushed, or I felt like I wasn't taking the enough time to think about the process of going about painting or drawing or designing something. So yeah, mostly I would be working on the weekends, or if I still have some energy left on weekdays after work, I would sketch something or do a tiny painting.
And then, oh yeah, you said you saw the posting on LinkedIn for the job. Oh yeah, and I remember you saying, like, I'm not sure if it'll come to anything, but I've just got into the habit of applying to notifications on my phone. So you're like, I'll just apply to another application.
It's funny because I literally have no recollection of applying to the Dreamworks training program. I even went back and I searched my emails just to see if I got any confirmation emails. There's no evidence whatsoever that I've done that, which is funny because it sounds like something I would do, because I was literally just when I was in New York, I was applying to things without even thinking about it, because LinkedIn's app, or the job app, that they have a separate app for jobs. It basically like has a template, so you do like a quick apply. So it's a one-click thing, right? Yeah, which explains why I don't remember doing it, because it's like something that I probably was doing on the subway or something, going home after my brain was already fried.
Yeah, that's amazing.
But yeah, I have a good amount of rejection letters from the entertainment industry, but that's the one that worked out.
So you would say like you applied to all the animation companies?
Yeah, all the gaming companies, all the animation companies. I even reached out to Google Spotlight, which is the division that Google has for creating VR content. Yeah, I've been wanting to maybe get an internship there or something, but apparently they hire from within the entertainment industry. They don't even like post job applications or anything. So yeah, I was looking at I was definitely looking at the main studios like the Disney Dreamworks and all the bigger studios, but I was also trying to find like smaller alleys of interesting projects. There's a lot of VR companies that are coming up right now that are creating their own animated content.
Do you want to talk about what your portfolio looked like at the time you got accepted to the training program, like how you got it ready? I remember you talked about backing a crowdfunding campaign that had a certain reward goal of getting your portfolio reviewed by a Sony recruiter.
Yeah, so the recruiter told me, actually, she was a recruiter from Illumination.
Oh, Illumination! Sorry.
Yeah. Her name is Allison Munn. She's awesome. She's pretty active on Twitter. Yeah. Basically, she told me the stuff that I kind of already knew. For example, she would tell me, take out the weak pieces, or the pieces that are not finished, or the pieces that I'm not sure about. Don't just mush stuff into your portfolio just because you want it to look like it's a big portfolio. I know it's obvious, but for some reason I kept falling into that same problem. Maybe it's because I wasn't able to take a step back and look at my work from a third view. But it's always good to sit with someone, whether it's a recruiter or an artist or even like a family member, and get some feedback on what they see or what are they attracted to and what they just see as a basic piece.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So yeah, it was mostly around filtering stuff and tweaking existing pieces and making it more industry standard or pieces the studios would like to look at.
And it also involved making things you loved. Like, I remember you talking about there being a NASA project in there, and you love like the idea of space exploration.
Yeah.
And there was a Kinder project too, and I remember how you talked about loving Kinder surprises as a little kid. But it's funny because when I met you a year ago, your portfolio was a little different. It was kind of full of like what a student would imagine a visual development artist would have in their portfolio, versus your new portfolio, which is like flash forward a year later, and now your portfolio is full of all these pieces that have all this love and personality in them.
No, you're hitting on the right stuff here. Yeah, basically when I met you last year, I was trying very much to imitate whatever I see in the art of books for movies. So I bought a bunch of art of books for different styles of feature animation, and I would look at how they lay out the book, which I later on realized that was something I shouldn't have done, because they lay it out in like a marketing strategy. And it's like for marketing purposes, it's not something that you should go to look at portfolio structure reference, right?
Yeah.
Or at least that's what I believe.
I hardly look at art of books now.
Yeah, I learned that the hard way. But yeah, so the most of the work that you've seen last year, like mid 2016, was mostly me trying to imitate the art of books, because I reached a point where I was like, okay, I just need to get a job in animation. I need to just take whatever I see in the books and do it on my work.
That's not a bad strategy because you learn more and you go through the same thinking process that they do. I definitely did the same thing myself.
Yeah, but it was good and bad, right? Because it's good because you're working backwards. You're looking at a finished film and you're looking at all the pieces they've used, or like the selection of pieces they have in the books, and then you're trying to work backwards from there. But the disadvantage that I had was I couldn't see the actual process. Because if you're looking at like an art of book of whatever movie, they only have a selection of sketches or like process pieces that they have for the book. But yeah, so basically what happened is that mid 2016 I had this portfolio, and then I went to CTN, and I came back from CTN this time and I decided, okay, I need to just get my stuff together and just do what I like, right? So I decided to pick projects like you mentioned, like this NASA space project, because it was something that I've always been interested about, and it's not like the space aspect of things, but it was more about the corporate life of the NASA employees. Like how would that look like, and taking like I've even looked at like the brand guidelines for NASA in the 60s and 70s and use that as a guideline for my like visual language for the pieces that I'm creating. Hopefully I get to develop this project more, because I only got to scratch the surface for it.
And it was interesting because I remember you said that when you talked to one of the art directors who was in charge of looking through your portfolio and selecting the Dreamworks visual development trainees, he said that project in particular was one that he was drawn to.
So the two art directors that picked me for the training program, I was going to be working on their show during the training program, and both the shows were 2D. One of them is super stylistic, mid-century kind of look. So I guess my portfolio was I don't want to say it was perfect for that kind of work, but for some reason they saw it and they were like, okay, this guy can probably work on our show because it seems like I'm interested in graphic shapes and flat design.
And yeah, it's great how there are so many art styles in TV, because it's not like you have to conform to a particular style. You basically can choose a show that fits your style. So you just need to do your own style to the best of your own abilities.
Yeah, exactly. And if you look at my colleagues, like the other trainees on the program, you will see that too. You'll see there's a very specific pattern to how they select the trainees. Like each trainee had a different kind of skill set that would work for the show that they're working on. So yeah, it worked out.
Yeah, I remember being so surprised when you were like, I'm gonna come to California in a month. You know, like, I got accepted into the Dreamworks trainee program. I was like, wait, what? I felt like it was only a couple months ago that you visited.
Yeah, it's funny. I don't know if you want to tell your audience about that. So about last year and when I visited, you basically gave me a tour at Dreamworks, right? And I was only a visitor. I was walking around the studio thinking, oh, maybe someday I'll get to work here, maybe in 2025 or something.
Mm-hmm.
It never crossed my mind that it would happen the year after, like you said. Yeah, I always thought that I still have a couple of more years of flying to CTN every year and just, you know, getting my work
Yeah, I
improved.
think you were just like working so hard, so in the zone, that it was hard to see how far you've come. Like, it was so funny when you messaged me out of the blue, because actually it was like a really good time to message me, because I know I said working at Dreamworks TV on my Instagram profile description, but I just like started my Instagram, so I hadn't had that many followers. So you're kind of like one of 5 people that messaged me.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah, and I was still excited about all the newness of Instagram, so I was like, yeah, let's meet up. Come over. Yeah, so sometimes it's good to reach out to people who aren't super famous on social media. The super famous people are usually those who don't have time to show people around studios or just engage with them.
Yeah. No, I didn't know that was your side of the story. That's interesting to know.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I only had like around 5,000 followers when you messaged me.
Yeah, I was reaching out to people who had like the basically the studio names in their descriptions. So if your Instagram profile had the word Disney or DreamWorks or Pixar, I'd probably have reached out to you and stalked you.
Oh my god, I did the same thing when I was starting out. I would stalk everyone's portfolio, memorize what their portfolio looked like, study it, try to let it influence my own stuff.
My own stuff.
Yeah, that was the life.
The hustle is real.
It is real. But yeah, so tell us more about the visual development trainee program. I'm sure people would be excited to hear about that.
So I believe they had a training program maybe last year or the year before, but for story artists.
Mm-hmm.
And as far as I know, it did really well, that they decided that they're going to experiment with doing a training program for visual development.
So you were part of the first class of visual development trainees at the studio.
Yeah, so yeah, I'm the first generation. I'm part of the first generation of trainees for DreamWorks Television, which is a great honor. It still hasn't hit me yet. I don't know.
Yeah, it's funny. I didn't even know they were doing the program. I would have told you if I knew about it, but it just really caught me off guard. I was like, what? They have a program?
Yeah. Yeah, they posted on LinkedIn, on a bunch of other job sites. Yeah, it was out there for a while on the job websites, and apparently I applied to it. Like I said, I have no memory of that.
So how exactly is the program structured? I know people will be curious. Do you get a mentor? Do you get to do actual production work? Are there classes?
Yeah, so they did a very good job with assigning different mentors for each trainee. Um, and I was so happy that my mentor was Aaron Spurgeon. His work is just amazing. He's like very graphic heavy, flat. Um, yeah, he he's famous for doing a lot of like the Pasadena like guides covers. I don't know if you've seen those. Yeah,
And he's also worked at Feature at Sony on Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs.
yeah.
The future stuff.
He taught me a lot about composition and how to construct an image, right? Like how to create an appealing image that you as an artist have control on where to lead the audience eyes to wherever you want. So that like visual manipulation was definitely something that I've learned from Aaron. And like dealing with values and colors and temperature. We've spent a lot of time looking at different artists, which was great because he told me about all these names that I didn't know. So yeah, my Pinterest board is just super bloated right now because of Aaron. Um, but yeah, so we had a mentor and we had a curriculum uh, with different classes. So every week we would attend 4 to 5 different classes. Yeah, so some of them were a series of lectures, like you would get a lecture about the animation pipeline, right? That was actually the first class we had, and then you would get another lecture about CG orthographic terms, right? And some classes would have like multiple parts. Some classes would give you homework assignment. Yeah, so it was pretty amazing, like the amount of information I've gained in only 12 weeks. Um, yeah, it was very like an intensive 12-week course about the animation production pipeline.
You were learning, but you were also working full time as an artist on the production. So that's kind of a lot to juggle at the same time.
Yeah, and also, so most of the trainees, so we were 4 trainees. 3 of us worked on 2 shows, and only one person worked on one show for the entire 12-week. So I've worked on one show for 6 weeks, and then I had to switch to another show for the second half of the program. So that switch was definitely not easy. It was an interesting challenge because after 6 weeks, you're already tuned to a specific show, um, a show like the show style, the show like pipeline, like how they deal with assets and files, how the production coordinators deal with artists. All that kind of stuff is very different from one show to another, as you know. So it was really interesting to just switch gears midway and switch on another show and try to learn the new style and learn people's names and like how people operate together, and like even the crew's personalities. You learn a lot by just working on assignments and stuff.
So I guess you were doing prop design, or what kind of assignments did they give you when you were on the shows?
So on the first show, I was working on prop design, just prop design for 6 weeks. But the show was super stylistic that only prop designs were enough to teach me a lot about the style of the show, about the way they paint things, about the way the shape language of the show, stuff like that. On the second show, I did a huge range of work that included character cleanup and background. I think I've done one background design, like a layout design. Vehicle. I designed one vehicle. I've designed a bunch of props, and I've colored other people's props.
Nice. Yeah, so it seems like over a span of a few weeks, you go from having zero production experience to being fully thrust into a production pipeline with deadlines. How does that feel?
It wasn't as hard as I expected.
Mhm.
I mean, I give credit to AppBoy, which is the company that I was working at in New York. I've learned a lot about organization and project managing, and because in tech you need to be on top of your game like all the time, right? And I'm kind of an organization freak. Like I spend a lot of time renaming my folders on my computer and like creating like structures that would make my work efficient. So yeah, getting plugged into this huge animation machine was definitely overwhelming, but I don't know, like it's into it. I was like, okay, so yeah, calendar events, I know that. Emails, I know that. There was a bunch of things that I already knew how to deal with, which made me which made my onboarding easier, I guess.
What was like the culminating assignment for the program?
Yeah, that was the highlight of the program. I totally forgot about it. I've been working on it for so long that I forgot it. Yeah, so basically, obviously working for a big studio like DreamWorks or even any studio, there's an NDA, right? Like you sign the NDA, you cannot share what the studio is working on until you're told otherwise. Or until it gets published and you're able to share with the world that, oh, I was working on this show and I was working on that show. So because the people who are responsible for the training are awesome, they've decided that they're gonna allow us to work on a portfolio piece that we're gonna develop on our own with the help of the mentors. And basically you can create whatever you want. You can create your like a new world for you, or like create a new story, but it's obviously it's going to be art focused, right? So we were asked to create either a background or characters or props for a story that we want to develop ourselves, and that would allow us to share this kind of project with the world after the training.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say you didn't get hired by DreamWorks after the training program. You still have some good portfolio pieces that you've developed with the art directors and the artists in the studio that you can share with the world and you can use to get other jobs, which I think was super great from them.
Were you nervous was it a 2-month period, right?
It's like 12 weeks. Yeah, so I'm really bad with math. Yeah,
So
like 3 months.
During the whole 3 months, were you kind of like on your toes, kind of worrying like, oh, I have to impress them or else they won't keep me on at the end?
Yeah, there was definitely some emotional um, uncertainty. The uncertainty was definitely a little bit uncomfortable because you're working on these shows and you're taking these classes and you're submitting your homework to different art directors who are teaching the classes, but you still don't know if you're good or not because there's no they haven't told us if we're going to get hired or not after the training program. So yeah, you definitely had to be on your toes most of the time. But thankfully, they offered me a role by I think the last week. they offered me a role as a visual development artist on another new show that I cannot say the name of.
So I'm so proud of you and happy to see how far you've come after 1 year. So I just wanted to say congratulations again.
Oh, thank you, Kelsey. Thank you so much. You were one of the people who encouraged me. Like I was saying earlier, there was definitely a lot of low points in my art career where it was like, even before it was a career, where it was like, oh, maybe I should just stop doing this. Maybe I should just quit trying to get a job in animation and stay in New York and stay in this like very stable job that pays me really well. Yeah, because you definitely get a lot of inner demons that are gonna try to tell you, oh, maybe you're not good enough or stuff like that. Artist problems.
It seems like you work so hard that all your hard work really eclipsed all that self-doubt, and allowed you to power forward.
Yeah, it's like you keep telling yourself, oh, I'm way deep into this now. There's no way out.
So how does it feel 1 year later? Now, you're not the one showing your portfolio to people at CTN. They'll probably be the ones approaching you, asking for feedback on their portfolios.
Yeah, that's gonna be weird. It's gonna be weird to get used to that. I'm definitely going to CTN this year, but it's gonna be the first time for me to go where I'm just like going there to hang out, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm not trying to impress anyone anymore. I just want to go look at some art, buy some cool prints, meet like all the people that I got to know throughout the years. Yeah, I have no idea what's gonna happen. Like, I don't know if I'm gonna be capable of giving people critiques yet on their work.
Of course you can do it.
But yeah, we'll see. I'll let you know for sure how it goes.
So this is kind of like your week of vacation because the training program just ended a week ago.
Last Friday.
Last Friday, so that's when you gave your final presentation. So what's in store next?
Yeah, so I decided to take a week off since I didn't take any time off from my previous job in New York, because my last day at App Boy was on a Thursday, and my first day at Dreamworks was Monday. So I had to move from New York to California to Burbank on the same weekend and start a new job right away, which was intense. Like, I haven't got a chance to rest since then, so I'm really happy that I have this week for myself. And then next Monday I start the new job at Dreamworks.
And you said you were going to be on the same floor that you were doing the trainee program on, right?
Yeah, I was lucky to. So they had all the trainees sitting in one pod on the second floor, but the show that I'm going to be working on, it was right next to us, was in the neighboring pods. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I put myself in a box last week, and I'll just take that box and move it to another pod.
So did you have to test for the show? I remember you said you were doing freelance work for it.
So oh my God, that was another. Wow, we've done a lot of work.
Yeah, you've done so much work.
There's a lot going on. And we did the plein air classes.
Oh yeah, so DreamWorks offers these learning courses for employees, and one of them was a plein air painting course taught by Angela Sung.
Yeah, it was once a week. It was on a Thursday.
Angela of the Warrior Painters, I guess, came to teach a gouache painting class, and they did that every week in addition to work.
It was intense because I've never painted in gouache before, ever. Like I've taken a color theory class in school, but it was mostly for architecture. So you basically do like the basic shapes, the circles, the squares, and you try to do like gradient strips and stuff like that. But actual painting, that was that was something that I was always afraid to get my hands dirty with, but Angela helped me like kill my fears.
Well, it seems like it influenced your work a lot because even your more recent pieces have a kind of a gouache texture to it.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, I'm definitely going to be doing more gouache paintings from now on. I just needed to break out of my shell of being spoiled by Photoshop and the undo button.
I just imagined you like a Kinder Surprise egg, like in your portfolio piece, and you just like
Yeah, that's me. I live in a Kinder Surprise egg. The walls made of chocolate.
Oh yeah, so you were talking about the freelance work.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry, I got sidetracked. So yeah, the basically during the training program, an art director that I wasn't working with reached out to me, and he was like, "Hey, would you like to do some overtime work for the show that we're developing?" And I did, and that's the show that I'm gonna be starting to work on next week. It was just one piece. It was like a background piece, and I guess they liked it, so they decided they're gonna give me the offer.
Oh yeah, I remember seeing it. It looked awesome. I remember thinking Ahmed really leveled up during the training program.
And,
Yeah, there was a lot of pressure.
Well, you didn't crack under the pressure. You just like formed an awesome diamond instead.
Yeah, I haven't cracked yet. We'll see.
So the training program was kind of like your entry into the dream, and now you just kind of get to live the dream.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting to work under a boss. I don't know if that's well said, but basically like getting direction from someone instead of living in, like when I was in New York, I was living in my bubble and trying to figure out what do I want to do. And a lot of weekends that I would have time to work on my art, I would be like, so what am I doing today? I have nothing, right? There's no story, there's no show to work on, there's no system that you just get plugged in. And this is probably the best part about working in animation, because you don't make a lot of the bigger decisions. You just do the thing that you're good at to fit into the bigger picture. I don't know. There's something that intrigues me about that kind of lifestyle.
Do you see yourself continuing to work in animation in the future? Like, I guess the next step after designer is art director. So do you see yourself pursuing that path and doing art projects on the side?
Yeah, like I have a lot of ideas in mind, but I haven't decided yet what I want to do with my career. I mean, it's like I'm surfing, right? Like I'm just riding the wave right now, and whatever happens. I'm just seeing where the wave is going to take me, because like I don't know, like 5 to 6 years ago, I didn't know people are going to be creating movies in virtual reality, right? So, and also a couple of years ago, I didn't know like people can go and start, like, leave the bigger studios and start their own studios, like Tonko House, for example.
Or Chromosphere.
Yeah. So yeah, like maybe I want to do my own thing someday. Maybe I want to create my own short movies or whatever. I definitely want to keep creating art and telling stories with my art. That's something that I'm 100% sure of. I'm just not sure in what form or in which medium or how it's gonna take shape, or if I'm gonna be still working for studios or working for myself.
Yeah, I feel like that's a thing that people every day, they think, oh, what am I gonna do next?
I like the fact that there's a lot of options now. I like the fact that it's like there's this huge platter and you just like pick whatever you want, or you do like a mishmash of, oh, I want to do like illustration books, but at the same time I want to work on short movies, or I want to work in TV, but at the same time I want to do sculpting. Like I think the range is so big right now that you can do whatever you want, which is exciting.
Yeah, I feel like it's kind of the time where people are interested in others' unique ideas and their own perspectives.
Yeah. Also, there's a lot of people now painting in VR. I keep mentioning VR because it's pretty amazing. Like with the HTC Vive like thing where they paint. Like I know Glenn Keane did like this project with Google where he was drawing like the Beast and Ariel in VR, and that was like the first time I've seen that. And then I've seen other artists who are just like creating these amazing worlds with just paint, but paint that's surrounding you in VR, and that's something that I definitely want to experiment with. Maybe I'll ask Rhoda to buy me an HTC Vive during the holidays or something.
Oh yeah, so what's Rhoda up to now? She moved down to Southern California with you, and she's like starting her own career as I guess she's in UI design. You guys kind of switched careers, like she into what you were doing.
Yeah, because we overlapped industries a little bit. Because she studied anthropology.
Mm-hmm.
And then a couple of years back, she decided she was gonna start doing UX. But she's more on the research side of things. I was more on the design side of things. So it was fun to like study and work together when I was in New York, because she in like a company environment, a researcher would work with a designer to develop a product, right? So it was so interesting that we weren't both designers or we weren't both researchers. We were just like completing each other in that way. Yeah, so it was fun. Like she definitely taught me a lot about UX while I was working at AppBoy, and I think I did the same because I was taking all the startup tech knowledge and just giving it to her, and she was taking all the educational UX materials and giving it to me. So it worked out great. And now she got a job in San Francisco, but thankfully she didn't move out to the Bay Area. She's living with me and she's working remotely with her company.
I'm glad it worked out for you guys. The whole moving across the country, it must be scary.
Yeah, because we've been through different phases with the move. Because, like I said, we were planning on moving to San Francisco, and I would go to Animation Collaborative, and we'd be still working with AppBoy, and she would start working with her new company. But when Dreamworks reached out to me, all the plans changed. We had to cancel our flights because we had flights booked to San Francisco, and we've done all this research on living in Oakland and how are we going to commute there, and we've been researching for a while that we felt really bad that we dumped all the information that we researched, and then we hit the reset button and we started researching Burbank and Glendale in this area.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. I'm glad it worked out. So there was this period of time before you got accepted into the program where you were you posting to Instagram daily?
Yeah.
And you had a set time you were doing it, right?
Yeah.
What time was it?
So that's another thing that I learned about social media. So working for AppBoy taught me a little bit about that too, because it's a marketing software company. So they create solutions for marketers, right? And as artists, we are marketers in one way or another because we market ourselves, right? You market the Kelsey brand, I market the Ahmed brand, and it's inevitable, right? There's no work around it. So from the things that I've learned was consistency, right? When it comes to social media, I've noticed, and I've seen people talk about it, where if you're the kind of artist who would post something every week, let's say Friday night, you always post one art piece, and you do it for like 5 years, you're set, because your audience would know when to expect your work. And it's like you've created this like virtual promise to your audience that they're going to expect one piece from you on Friday nights for forever, right? And so I tried experimenting with that. I tried doing the one drawing per week, and I tried doing one drawing every 2 days, and I've tried drawing the one drawing a month. And then I realized, wait a minute, I'm actually destroying myself right now, because people don't know when to expect, when to see art from me. So I've decided for one period, like when I was experimenting with these different posting styles, I decided that I'm going to do 2 pieces a day. So I would do one before I go to work in the morning, and then I would do post another one when I get home at night. And I guess this strategy it did something to override my previous strategy, which is, I think the quantity made people notice me more. The fact that I was posting twice a day got me more likes and more followers, and maybe I have no idea, but maybe it helped Dreamworks when they were looking at different people for the program. I'm assuming, because that's what I started learning too, is that studios care about your social media presence, even if they don't say it. Yeah, so it's interesting.
But like, not only just like for the studio and for the followers, like for you yourself, like I feel like you just grew so much by increasing the amount of posts that you did. Like, were some of them for your portfolio, or it was mostly just like practice things that you did on the side?
It was a mishmash of both, because so if I do something for my portfolio, I would still post it and call out people to my website or wherever I want them to go. But if I'm doing just something for practice, I would also still post it. Yeah, I'm trying to like post different, like if you go through my Instagram feed, you'll notice that, which is something I'm still working on. Like even if you're gonna take a picture of your hand drawing on your Cintiq, make sure, that's what I've learned, that you have to make sure to do it every other time, so that people would expect, oh, you're always going to post a process video, or you're always going to post like a finished piece. But it's like a fixed set of types that you have. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that makes sense, because if you are consistent, that encourages the viewers to be consistent in their in seeing your stuff too. So
yeah,
it's kind of like if you like, you watch like a TV show that comes out every like Sunday or Saturday, like you're excited every time that show comes out, and you like,
exactly.
Get friends together, you go watch the show, you have a viewing party. So it's similar to that.
Yeah, that's a great example.
Yeah, one piece that I noticed on your Instagram that did really well was when you were doing kind of like the different faces. They were the lighting on the face. It was kind of like a tutorial.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so funny, because I never know what's gonna get people's attention and what's not gonna do that. I'm looking it up right now because I need to refresh my memory. That piece was really fun. Now that I'm looking at it, I love teaching. Actually, it's one of the things like back to your question about what I want to be doing like in the future. Teaching definitely is something that I don't want to skip. Like it's something that I really want to dive into, because I've always enjoyed teaching people, and like I guess my personality is just, or I was told that it works for that, because I have the patience to just sit with someone and make sure that they get the thing that I'm trying to tell them. Yeah, and I get this like enjoyment of spreading knowledge for some reason. I don't know why.
It's funny. I feel like people can tell when you like posted that, like they really responded very well to it. So should
Yeah,
do that.
I guess. No, you're right. I mean, you're way better at detecting which posts.
No,
You just count the number of likes.
I didn't even think about it. Oh yeah, it's like 1,000. It's like 1,800 likes or something.
you just count it and then you do the one that does the best. That's what I learned. You just like kind of follow. I mean, obviously you have to like what you're doing, but
Yeah,
it helps to follow what, because people like.
but it's good to know. I'll definitely do more tutorial pieces, because I really like doing them. I really put a lot of love and effort into them.
Ahmed learns more about himself in the interview.
Yeah, you're always learning about yourself.
What advice would you give to someone who is in your position, you know, like when you're struggling, going to CTN, no jobs are happening, you know, just like imagine yourself back in those shoes. Like, what would you say?
The one major piece of advice is that don't quit your job. Like if you're working like the most tedious job ever, but it's paying you good money, but you don't feel the fulfillment from this job, just stick with your job until you actually like find a smart way into the industry. Like don't, because I've seen people who would unfortunately they would quit their job and move to another city, and they would wait for the studios to hire them or something, and then they start realizing that, oh wait, that was a bad idea, because now I don't have any source of income and my art is not good enough, and you can easily get stuck in this limbo of instability, right?
Mm-hmm.
So definitely, if you have a job, just keep your job. Try to save money, because this money can help you support your art. Like you can take courses, you can buy books, you can go to CTN, wherever you are, right? Like you can travel. Yeah, that's the one thing I always think about, is that if I didn't have a job, I probably wouldn't be able to support my art until I actually get the job that I want.
Oh, that's great advice. Like, I feel similarly. Like, you being in the animation industry, like you hear so many stories about like, oh, like, I mean, it does happen sometimes where people quit their job and then it works out when they come to LA. But like, I feel like for those events, there are like special circumstances surrounding it. Like they took a class, they met someone, they worked really hard, their work was like amazing, and people noticed it immediately. But you know, for most people, it's a slow build towards a portfolio that will like get you the attention of the studios.
Yeah, unless you have like a guaranteed gig, whether it's freelance, full-time, whatever, just wait, you know. Waiting is good. And during that time that you're waiting, just keep practicing, keep draw every day, all that stuff that people tell us to do.
Do you have any last words of advice?
The one thing that I really wish that I've done more was watching more movies and doing movie studies. And because if you want to work in an industry, you have to just consume what the industry is all about, right? Like you because you cannot, like, I used to fall into this trap where I would just look at one source of reference to create my art and ignore everything else. There's a lot of information that you can get from watching, or if, like, you don't have to pay for a class to learn about composition. You can actually just play a movie on Netflix and pause it and keep doodling until your hand and your brain just gets it, right? I wish I've done movie studies during the time that I was developing my art, and that's something that I'm definitely gonna be doing.
And by movie studies,
from now on.
Oh, sorry. By movie studies, do you mean like a like a small thumb kind of composition, or like would you like kind of make it bigger, and you study the colors, or what would you focus on?
Like for me, if I do a movie study, I would basically do a black and white value thumbnail for the stills that I'm trying to capture, or like if the movie is composed of like 20 different color scripts or keyframes, then I would put them on a sheet of paper and just like see where the values are, like which are the darkest areas in the scene, which are the lightest areas in the scene, and try to recreate that in my own way. Does that make sense?
No, yeah, that's really helpful. Like I think the advice to just study from like the industry that you want to get into is, I mean, that's what you should be doing to like kind of learn the industry standard.
Yeah. What I'm trying to say is that like you can get tutorials and go to school and take classes, but at the end of the day, I've seen it a lot where like people would just focus on the educational sources and they would ignore the actual content that is out there, that is full of information. Yeah, that's what I was trying to get at.
Oh, no, that's great. Okay, well, thanks so much for talking with me and like telling us about your experience working at Dreamworks TV and the trainee program. Like, it's just so great to hear from that unique perspective of someone who just like who is like kind of outside of the industry and has been working so hard and for so long, and then finally like the dream comes into fruition, and just hearing about how you got there is just so helpful and useful. So thanks so much.
Thank you, Kelsey. Thank you for having me on your show, and thank you for responding to my Instagram message last year.
Yeah, I know, right? Like, I feel you have to kind of respond to everyone, because it's like you don't know if this next person's gonna be like super famous or what. It's just like it's really
not all people think like that. Not all people think like you're just nice. You're the nicest person.
You're great too. I mean, I'm just so happy to have met you, because I mean your journey actually inspires me too. I'm like, I have to work harder. So consistency from you.
That means a lot. Thank you.
Oh, that's awesome.
Well, thank you so much, Kelsey. Yeah, see you soon. Thank you.